Good morning, I'm Jennifer Zarate and welcome to EC Game Plan. The 46th annual New England Rugby Football Tournament is here. This year marks the 28th time the tournament has been held in Newport, Rhode Island. The first match kicked off at 8 a.m. Saturday morning with a total of 10 Boston teams, both men's and women, who rallied their teammates to compete in this year's Cup. Our reporter Jennifer Zarate, attending the event, shares with us Boston's tale in the sport of rugby.
It all dates back to 1872. The Harvard Rugby Football Club was the first men's rugby team established in North America. Since then, rugby has birthed some of the nation's oldest teams in the Boston area. But it wasn't until the 1970s when the wives and girlfriends of players decided they wanted to play the sport too.
The women that were involved, they had the foresight to create two teams. This was back in 1976. So at that time, both Beantown and Boston Women's were formed.
Beantown's match secretary, Kelly Seary, played rugby for the first time in college with Harvard's Radcliffe Rugby Football Club, which began in 1982 and has transformed into a team to be reckoned with in the Northeast. Her four coaches at the time played for Beantown, and Seary explains once she graduated,
it seemed only right for me to stay here and to play for Beantown because I had idolized all those players.
Seary went on to play for Beantown, now 14 years, and says after winning 6 national championships since the team was founded, Beantown is one of Boston's most reputable teams. Beantown's president, Mary Sung, says when attending Wellesley College, a fellow classmate introduced the sport and says her coach, a longtime Beantown player,
she told us, if you're going to stay in this area, which not a lot of Boston kids do, we kind of disperse after college, but she said, if you want to stay in this area, please go play for Beantown. Rugby is one of those few sports where it gets only more competitive after college, so there is still a fantastic community post-college.
Sung says Beantown's camaraderie, along with other teams, are able to thrive here in Boston because
it's a ton of alumni involvement, coming back to coach, making sure that we're encouraging college women to come to our club. I think that's why we've had success. It's like the whole community aspect and alums really giving back to the team to make sure that the legacy of success continues.
I think also in Boston we have such a high concentration of colleges and universities, and that also helps because that's where we're pulling a lot of our players from, whether they played rugby in college or whether they're ex-varsity athletes who are looking to stay competitive, and we're looking to maintain that high level of intensity in their lives, which I think we all miss when it's gone.
Beantown's captain, Emily Jones, says that rugby is the ultimate team sport, and having as many Boston teams represented in this year's tournament, Jones explains in the Northeast they're lucky to have a large scale of good rugby and competition where
on the women's scene we have Boston Women's, we have Beantown, we have Charles River, we have North Shore, so 4 teams in a very small area. That's fantastic for the sport. We have our little rivalries and that we push each other, we make each other better.
For EC Game Plan, I'm Jennifer Zarate.
It's amazing to see the influence of rugby here in Boston and to hear of its rich history. Beantown wins its 3 matchups on Saturday and walked away Sunday with the Women's Pool A championship title. NERFU's Division II men's director, Brad Dufresne, has more details on Boston's rugby scene.
So there's a great heritage, a lot of academic institutions feeding into the post-collegiate. Obviously with having a great workforce, we can keep a lot of our talent local. So Boston's really fortunate. We have a ton of teams from Division 4 men's all the way up to Division 1. It seems like year in and year out we have the ability to compete on the national level and represent the area pretty well. Yeah, so today down in Newport, they've been a long-time host of the NERFU Cup. It's our New England end-of-year tournament for 15s to transition into the 7th season for the summer. There's, I believe, 24 teams in the men's bracket and 12 teams in the women's bracket today. Competitions from Division 1 down to Division 3. It's broken up according to their seedings and their placements over the past year's competition.
Coming up next, our reporter Jennifer Zarate is back highlighting Boston Men's RFC, whose motto is one team, one goal.
Boston teams, both men's and women's, compete in this year's New England Rugby Football Union Cup in Rhode Island at Fort Adams State Park. Games have been going on since 8 a.m. this morning and continue throughout the entire afternoon and into this evening. But one team in particular, Boston Men's Rugby Football Club, established in 1960, is one of Boston's oldest teams. Boston RFC is currently the top team in the Northeast and a member of the 16-team Super League. President Chris Williams says BRC involves teams of all ages here in Boston.
We have players that are still in college that are playing for us. We have players that are in their upper 30s that are playing on our first team, and then we have an old boys team. So we have guys that are 35 and over, old as 50, 60 years old, that are still playing a couple times a season, 4 or 5 times a year. And so that's kind of neat because you get to play with people that are a lot older than you, the same age, a little bit younger than you, have played in different eras with different rules, but you kind of step on the rugby field and you kind of have a chance to share something with them. It's really neat. So we play in the American Rugby Premiership. So it's the highest recognized competition in the U.S. 2 teams from Boston, 2 from New York, and 1 from Atlanta. And so we have our last game this next Saturday. Right now we're in 4th place out of the 5, and our local competition from Boston, they were the team that we're playing next week. So we're kind of looking to finish strong for the season.
The following Boston teams walking away with this year's championship title are Boston Irish Wolfhounds in the men's Pool B final, winning 23-18 against MIT, and Beantown in the women's Pool A final, winning 22-10 against Boston Women's RFC. Thank you for watching this morning's segment. I'm Jennifer Zarate, and see you next time on EC Game Plan.